Welcome to the Crypto Layer HQ. Oil has had its largest weekly spike in its entire history since the 1980s, and we can see it has spiked approximately 35%. This is a massive move and will have rippling effects on the rest of the markets. We can see we've been in this pattern where we weren't able to break this downtrend, and when we finally broke it here, we now had this huge spike from around $67 all the way to $90. And now it's the weekend, so the markets have closed. But if we look at Hyperliquid, we can also see where oil is traded on the blockchain. It is now being traded at $115. So this would mean that oil is approximately around these prices. So we could get a big gap up when the markets open tomorrow on Monday. And if we do end up gapping up to here, it will be very interesting to see if we hold or if we do sell off. Keep in mind that Hyperliquid obviously has much lower volume than the traditional market. So when the markets open, we will get a much better idea of price. But I think there is a very good chance that we do see at least $100 this week. So what does this mean for the overall market? So since oil had its largest spike in a week that it's ever had, this rate of change will have a huge effect on the rest of the market, since oil affects inflation. And if people think there's risk of inflation, then they know that the Fed won't be able to cut rates. And if the Fed won't be able to cut rates, that makes it difficult for the markets to continue to climb. If we look at the S&P, we can see it's been in this distribution pattern, and essentially it's gone sideways for the last few months since around October time. So there is a good chance, I think, that we do have a drawdown, and that could mean we end up retesting this level at 6,100. That would be from the top a drawdown of approximately 12.5%. I don't think that is very unrealistic, since we oftentimes get 10% drawdowns, and considering oil is spiking so much and we have had this distribution pattern and we have pretty much gone straight up since October of 2022, apart from when we had the tariff scare, we had this quick pullback which recovered. We are potentially due for another pullback. I would say 6,100 is the first level to watch, and potentially if we do end up even going further, another major level to watch would be 4,800 potentially, which is where we bottomed when we had the tariff drawdown, and it's also where we topped in January of 2022 before we went into this longer drawdown when rates were being increased. That would be a 30% drawdown. So of course, predicting such a large drawdown is very difficult to do, but I would say right now there is a good chance that we get a drawdown. It might not be to the first level or to this last level, but maybe we will end up getting something in between, maybe a 20% drawdown, which often happens in the stock market and is healthy to reset markets and then allow for more bullish price action to continue afterwards. If we look at Bitcoin, we can see we've pretty much gone straight down since October 2025. As you can see, we've continued to just go down, and we've definitely had some small pumps, but they've been quickly rejected every single time. And in March, we did have a small pump to 74K, which has now been rejected. And potentially this drawdown in Bitcoin has been telling us and giving us a signal for what's to come in the broader markets. My base case is that we will bottom potentially in Q4 of 2026. So sometime around here, I would say, and potentially around these prices. So we still do have a way to go, and this process could take some time, but definitely this is where I will be looking to potentially accumulate some Bitcoin. And if oil continues to spike, I think there is a good chance that markets continue to act weak, since oil puts a lot of pressure on inflation, and with inflation risks, it allows the Fed to either hold rates or potentially even have to increase rates if they feel there is a risk of inflation. And with all this uncertainty, it makes it difficult for markets to go up, since the one thing markets hate the most is uncertainty. And with these uncertain times and oil spiking, as well as the signal Bitcoin has been giving us for the last few months, a lot of signs do point to weakness. So it is interesting to see if we do end up getting a pullback in the S&P and potentially test the 6,000 level. And right now my eye will be on oil to see where we open on Monday. Hyperliquid is right now trading at 114. Of course, it could get a larger correction by the time markets do open and potentially ends up opening closer to the $100 region. But either way, that would still be a huge gap up, especially since we were just trading at the 60s back in February. February, and now we're at 90s, and potentially we're going to be at 100 soon. So from where we closed on the last week of February all the way to $100, that would be a 50% price increase. And even if we go to $115, that would be a 70% price increase, which is a insane amount if you think about it, considering back in 2022 we were trading at those prices, and we've been pretty much in a oil bear market since June of 2022 in this downwards kind of consolidation pattern, and now we broke out, and very quickly we might end up reaching these highs again. So my eye will be on oil when the markets open on Monday.